please marry my mommy. She's all I have left," cried the little girl to the Heartless CEO. Before we go further, please ensure to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories like this one. The lobby of Monarch Tower pulsed with activity. Clicking heels, brisk conversations, elevator dings. Sleek suits glided across the marble floor, eyes glued to glowing screens, deadlines heavy on their shoulders. No one noticed the woman at first. Her clothes wrinkled, her shoes worn, her hair pulled back in a loose, desperate knot. She was being guided, no pushed, toward the exit by a pair of security guards. Her protests were soft, broken, almost invisible against the rush of power suits and polished ambition. Then came the sound that silenced it all. "Sir, please marry my mummy." The voice was tiny, shaky, and sharp enough to cut through glass. People turned, phones lowered, fingers froze mid-text, and there she was, barefoot, maybe 6 years old, standing alone in the center of the lobby, her small arms wrapped around a frayed teddy bear. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes glistening with the kind of tears that don't just fall, they plead. She wasn't crying for candy or toys. She was crying for her mother. The man she spoke to stood tall, expression locked in granite. Alexander Drake, the CEO no one dared interrupt, the man whose boardroom decisions could build or bury empires. He looked down, his gaze slow, calculating. She looked up. "She's all I've got now," the girl whispered, her voice cracking as though her soul had aged decades in a second. Silence swept the room like a wave. The guards froze mid-step. A receptionist stood, hand to mouth. Even the janitor paused, leaning on his mop. Alexander said nothing. His face remained untouched by the chaos around him. But something in his eyes flickered, briefly, like a match struggling to catch. The girl's bottom lip trembled as she took a single step closer, dragging the teddy bear behind her. "Please don't let them take her. She didn't mean to come here. We had nowhere else to go." No one moved. Then she said it. "She saved you. Don't you remember?" Gasps rippled. A woman at the front desk dropped her pen. Someone's phone clattered to the floor. The child words didn't make sense. Not to them, but to Alexander Drake. They cut straight to bone. He blinked. Once. The mother, pale and unsteady, managed to lift her head from the guard's grip. Her lips opened, forming silent words. Eyes met. Recognition sparked, and then her knees buckled. She collapsed like a puppet whose strings were slashed. Her body hit the marble with a sickening thud. The teddy bear slipped from the girl's hands as she dropped to her knees, wailing in panic. "Mummy!" Still, Alexander didn't move. Not yet. His fists clenched. His jaw tightened. Around him, whispers turned to murmurs, then confusion. But he wasn't hearing them anymore. He wasn't in that lobby. He was back in a burning car, gas choking his lungs, a soft hand pulling him into the rain, a voice he never forgot shouting, "You'll be all right. Just stay with me." The woman he never found. The ghost he buried with time. And now, right here, in front of board members, clients, strangers, she lay unconscious on the cold floor, her daughter screaming, and her truth finally crashing through the walls he had spent years building. Alexander took one slow breath. And then, he stepped forward. It was raining that night. The kind of rain that blurred vision, swallowed headlights, and turned highways into rivers of unpredictability. A silver sedan skidded across the slick asphalt, tires screaming before it slammed sideways into the guardrail. The impact twisted metal like paper, sending smoke curling from beneath the hood. Inside, a young man, barely 20, hung limp over the steering wheel. Blood streaked down his temple. His breath was shallow. The windshield cracked like ice under pressure. Flames licked the edges of the engine, growing fast. No one stopped, except her. A modest car screeched to the shoulder, door flung open. A woman in a simple sweater, no umbrella, no gloves, bolted into the chaos. She didn't hesitate. While others slowed down to stare, she ran straight into the smoke. The heat slapped her in the face. The rain did little to stop it. She tugged at the door, stuck. With one final pull, it gave way. She coughed, eyes burning, and reached in. Come on," she whispered. The boy inside didn't respond. She dragged him out, arms trembling with effort, feet slipping on the wet gravel. A loud hiss erupted from the hood. She pulled harder. 30 seconds. That's all it took. She yanked him free. They hit the ground just as the car exploded. The fireball lit the sky like a second sun, sending shards of debris into the air. The woman shielded his body with hers until the blast faded. Her arms were cut, her sweater singed, but she didn't look at the wreckage, only at him. She checked his pulse. Still breathing. Sirens wailed in the distance. She stood, heart hammering, and then she ran. No name, no face left behind, just the fading imprint of her hands on his shirt and the smell of smoke in the wind. In the present, fluorescent lights hum overhead. The marble beneath Alexander Drake's feet reflects the woman lying unconscious before him. He sees her now, not with the eyes of a CEO, but of the boy he was. The same shape of her face, the unmistakable scar on her forearm, the one he memorized during the night sweats and flashbacks. The details the police never found. The features his mind refused to forget even after a decade of silence. Her. He whispers the word like a prayer only he can hear. Gasps rise as he crouches beside her. His hands, always cold with calculation, are suddenly warm, shaking as they cradle her head. Her eyes flutter but do not open. Her breathing is shallow, like it was the night of the wreck. Without looking up, he speaks firm and low. Call an ambulance. Now, no one dares question him. The lobby, once a circus of judgment and whispers, becomes silent once more as paramedics flood in. Cameras flash from all corners, but Alexander doesn't notice. He lifts her himself, ignoring the chaos, the stares, the noise. Her weight in his arms is light, but heavy with memory. Hope, the little girl, trails behind, clutching her bear. Alexander doesn't say a word, but something inside him does. Something long buried is stirring, and it's not going back to sleep. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and warm linen. Machines beeped steadily. Sunlight filtered weakly through the blinds, streaking across a pale face lying still against starched sheets. Amelia hadn't moved since they wheeled her in. Tubes ran from her wrist, an oxygen line traced beneath her nose. She looked like sleep had finally taken hold, only deeper, quieter. Beside her, Hope sat on a hard plastic chair far too big for someone so small. Her teddy bear rested in her lap, worn and limp, one ear nearly torn off. A tray of untouched food sat on the table, growing cold. She hadn't cried since the lobby. Not out loud, but her silence was loud enough. The door opened with a soft click. Alexander stepped in, unannounced. No guards, no entourage, no assistant shadowing his steps. He held a bouquet in one hand, lilies and baby's breath, chosen more by obligation than familiarity. He stood at the threshold longer than necessary, almost like he wasn't sure he belonged there. Hope turned, her face unreadable. She didn't run to him this time. A nurse passed in the hallway, glimpsed him through the open door, and paused. "Are you family?" she asked gently. He opened his mouth, but the word wouldn't form. His silence stretched too long. Hope answered for him. "He's going to marry my mummy." The nurse smiled, nodding as if hearing a child's dream. But Alexander didn't correct her. He moved to the chair across from Hope and sat slowly, as though worried he'd disturbed something sacred. The flowers rested on his knee, forgotten. The stillness unnerved him more than any boardroom battle ever had. "What's your name?" he asked. His voice was softer now, less steel, more breath. "Hope." She said it like it meant more than just letters, like it was a promise. There was a beat of silence. Then she reached into her small backpack and pulled out a worn box. It creaked open in her lap. Inside lay an old, folded clipping from a business magazine, yellowed at the edges. His face stared up from it, sharper, younger, expression frozen in mid-smile beside a headline. Youngest legal mind behind corporate empire. Hope unfolded it with care and placed it between them. "She always kept this," she said. "When she thought I was asleep, I'd see her take it out. Sometimes she'd cry. Sometimes she just stared at it for a long time." Alexander didn't touch the clipping. He didn't need to. He remembered that photo shoot. The suit he wore. The pride he felt. It hadn't meant anything then, until now. She told me not to ask about you. Hope continued. Said it was a secret, that some people didn't like her, and if they found out who she helped, it might hurt us both. The puzzle pieces slid into place. She hadn't vanished from his life because she wanted to. She was forced into the shadows, dragging a child with her. Alexander's throat tightened. For 10 years, he'd imagined 1,000 reasons she never came forward. None were as cruel as the truth. She didn't just save him that night. She paid for it, over and over. Hope's eyes studied him. "Did you love her?" she asked, almost too quietly to hear. He didn't answer. Instead, he finally placed the bouquet in the vase beside the bed. Then he reached out and took Hope's hand, not as a stranger, but as someone who had just remembered who he was and who he was meant to be. The corner office of Alexander Drake was silent, blinds drawn, city lights bleeding through the slats. The room usually echoed with power, urgent calls, executive meetings, deals being made and broken. Tonight, it was just him and a single file. He flipped it open. Inside were photos, documents, police reports, pieces of a woman's life assembled like a jigsaw puzzle with jagged edges. Amelia Reed, once a bright legal intern with promise, now a ghost the world forgot. His private investigators had worked fast, and what they uncovered chilled him. She had once been engaged to Dominic Villaro, heir to a corporate dynasty and a man whose public charm veiled ruthless criminal roots. The file detailed what happened when Amelia found out about the bribes, the illegal trades, the disappearances. She tried to report him. She thought justice would protect her. Instead, it buried her. Her name was erased from firm records. Her reputation destroyed with rumors and manufactured evidence. One by one, job offers vanished. Evictions followed. Friends turned cold. Doors slammed before she even knocked. And then came the threats. Drake's fist clenched as he read them. Handwritten notes. Anonymous voicemails. One message simply read, "Keep quiet or your next job will be 6 feet under." She didn't run for her sake. She ran to protect the baby growing inside her. Hope. Alexander stood, turning toward the city skyline. He could see himself in the glass, older now, harder. But underneath the sharp suit and controlled voice, a storm was building. He had searched for her once, years ago. Posted inquiries. Visited hospitals. Hired a firm for a month. Then the trail went cold, and he let it. He convinced himself she'd wanted it that way, that she chose to disappear. But she hadn't. She had vanished to keep both of them alive, and he had stopped looking. At the hospital, Amelia stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, blurred images resolving into bright ceiling tiles and the dull green of curtains. A quiet beeping steadied her pulse. She sat up fast, wincing as pain lanced through her ribs. Then she saw him, Alexander, sitting beside her bed, eyes fixed. He hadn't moved in hours. She gasped, panic rising. "No," she said quickly, voice hoarse. "You can't be here." He didn't respond. Not immediately. "Amelia," he said finally quietly. "You don't understand," she whispered. "It's not safe. For you. For Hope. If they know you've found me." "I already know," he cut in. His voice wasn't angry. It was steady. "Sure. Dominic. The threats. The things you lost." She froze. "I read everything," he continued. "All of it." Tears welled in her eyes. "Then you know why I left that night." "I didn't want to. I couldn't stay." "I thought you vanished," he said, barely above a whisper. "But you were disappearing for both of us." "I tried to keep you out of it," she breathed. "You had a future. I didn't want to be the reason it was taken from you." "You were the reason I lived," he said simply. She looked away. "I'm not running anymore, Amelia," he said. "And I won't let you either." She shook her head, afraid. "They'll come for you." "Let them," he said. And in that moment, she saw it in his eyes. Not just the man she had once pulled from fire, but the man who would now walk into one for her. The photo had gone viral before sunrise. A man in a tailored charcoal suit, cradling an unconscious woman in his arms. Beside him, a little girl clutched a teddy bear and stared up at him with wide, trusting eyes. The backdrop, a grand corporate lobby. The subject, Alexander Drake, billionaire CEO of Drake Industries. By mid-morning, it was everywhere. Who is the mystery woman? From homeless to heiress. Drake's downfall or fairy tale? Paparazzi staked out the hospital. News vans lined up outside corporate headquarters. Stock tickers blinked red as investors panicked. Board members fumed, and scandal vultures began circling overhead. In a penthouse conference room, executives whispered behind closed doors. Words like reckless, liability, and public image floated through the air like poison. They wanted control. Damage control. You're risking everything, one board member snapped. Alexander sat at the head of the table, still and unreadable. His eyes gave nothing away, but inside, resolve burned brighter than ever. I'm not hiding behind statements or press releases, he said. This time, I speak for myself. At noon, the world watched. Cameras flashed as Alexander stepped onto the stage. No podium, no teleprompter. Just him in a navy blue suit, flanked by flashes and tension. I never imagined I'd be standing here today, answering questions about my personal life. But since speculation seems to have replaced facts, let me clarify. The room fell silent. 10 years ago, I was in a car accident. My vehicle caught fire. I would have died, if not for a stranger who risked her life to save mine. She pulled me out seconds before the explosion. And then, she disappeared. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I tried to find her. I failed. Life moved on. Mine did, at least. Hers did not. She lost her name, her safety, her home, all because she dared to stand up to a powerful man. That woman is Amelia Reed. Flashbulbs popped. She raised a daughter, Hope, on her own, in shadows most of us will never understand. And the moment I saw them again, I remembered who I owe everything to. He took a breath. The next words came slowly, deliberately. I've been accused of many things this week. Impulsiveness, emotional recklessness, even planning to marry a woman with no acceptable background. So let me answer that last one directly. He looked into the camera lens, into millions of eyes across the world. If the only way I can protect Amelia is by being by her side, then yes, I'll marry her. The room exploded. Gasps. Reporters shouting questions. Flashes firing like gunshots. Alexander stepped back without another word. He didn't wait for applause, nor for approval. He had said what needed to be said. 3 floors below, in a quiet hospital room, Amelia watched the live stream on a nurse's tablet. Her hand covered her mouth. Her eyes flooded. No, she whispered to no one. He didn't have to do this. But he had, and he meant it. Beside her, Hope twirled around in her socks, giggling. He said it. He said it. He's going to marry you, Mummy. Amelia tried to smile, but the weight pressed heavier than ever. She didn't fear love. She feared history. Outside that room, the world now knew her name. The wrong people might see it. The shadows she'd spent years outrunning could stir again. Behind Alexander's noble words, behind Hope's joy, something darker lingered. Something unfinished. Night fell like a velvet curtain over the city, but inside the hospital, Amelia couldn't rest. Her hands trembled as she folded Hope's clothes, one piece at a time, careful not to wake her sleeping child. The small duffel bag on the chair was half-packed. Diapers, formula, a blanket stitched with Hope's name. She paused, breathing in the soft scent of lavender lotion lingering in the fabric. It reminded her of quieter days and of the danger now looming far too close. The knock came quietly. 2 taps. Slow. Familiar. Amelia stiffened. Her heartbeat thundered as she opened the door a crack, and there he stood. Dominic Villaro. Older now, but his eyes were still cold. Still calculating. Dressed in expensive black, he looked like he'd stepped from the edge of a nightmare. I told you to stay hidden, he hissed. You think I won't burn your world again, just because your billionaire prince showed up? She said nothing. Her grip tightened on the doorframe. You expose me, you lose everything, he sneered. Run now, Amelia, before I make you wish you had. Then he was gone. The echo of his threat lingered longer than his footsteps. She zipped the bag shut. Hope stirred awake just as Amelia reached for her coat. Where are we going? The child asked, rubbing her eyes. Amelia forced a soft smile. We're going on a little trip, baby. Hope sat up. Are you leaving him too? The words cut deeper than any threat Dominic ever made. Amelia dropped to her knees beside the bed, tears falling faster than she could blink. "I'm not trying to leave him," she whispered. "I'm trying to keep you safe." "But he keeps us safe," Hope said. "He made the scary go away. Why can't you trust him?" "I'm scared," Amelia admitted. "More than I've ever been." Hope took her mother's hand and held it tightly. "Then don't be scared alone." Downstairs, Alexander Drake stepped out of the elevator into chaos. Security was scrambling. A nurse whispered something to a doctor who rushed off. Then a guard approached him. "There was an incident," he said. "A man, unauthorized. He threatened her." Alexander's calm shattered like glass. He didn't wait. Within 15 minutes, his legal chief, 2 trusted detectives, and a high-level federal contact were on the line. Names were given. Records pulled. Evidence surfaced fast. Threats, digital trails, financial bribes. Dominic had left a long list of mistakes. Within the hour, a quiet arrest order was signed. Outside the hospital, Dominic never saw it coming. Blue and red lights caught him mid-step, hand already in his coat. By the time he turned, it was too late. Amelia watched it from the window upstairs. Her legs nearly gave out. Behind her, Alexander finally spoke. "He won't touch you again." She turned slowly, emotion shaking her to the core. "You don't know everything." "I do now," he said. She hesitated. "I let him ruin my life," she whispered. "I was weak. I was stupid. I was scared. And you still saved me," he said. "None of that changes what you are." "And what's that?" she asked, tears on her cheeks. "The bravest woman I've ever known." In that moment, there were no boardrooms, no headlines, no bodyguards or power plays. Just a woman who once pulled a man from fire. And a man, finally, ready to pull her from hers. The garden was quiet, kissed by late spring sunlight and a gentle breeze that rustled the ivory ribbons tied to each chair. No chandeliers, no orchestra, no showy displays of wealth. Just petals scattered across the grass, laughter rising from the small crowd, and the scent of lavender drifting from the flower beds Amelia had chosen herself. She stood at the end of the aisle in a white dress that flowed like a soft memory. Simple, unassuming, perfect. Her hair was loosely pinned, her eyes full of something both tender and trembling. Across from her stood Alexander, no longer the cold-faced EO, but a man whose armor had cracked and reformed into something warmer, stronger. His tie was slightly askew, as if Hope had tugged on it just before the ceremony. The crowd wasn't made up of shareholders or dignitaries. There were nurses from the hospital, janitors from the building where it all began, the security guard who once tried to escort Amelia out, now standing with flowers in hand and tears in his eyes. Every face held some memory of that day. The lobby, the plea, the child's cry. Hope walked down the aisle ahead of her mother, tiny hands dropping petals with proud precision. Her teddy bear peeked from the crook of one arm, dressed for the occasion in a makeshift bow tie. When she reached Alexander, she stopped, looked up, and grinned. He offered his hand. She took it. Then, for a heartbeat, silence. The officiant cleared his throat, but Alexander stepped forward before a word was spoken. He didn't look at Amelia. Not yet. He knelt before Hope. "You once stood in front of a stranger," he said, with more courage than most grown men carry in a lifetime. "You asked me to marry your mummy. Not because you wanted a fairy tale, but because you were afraid of losing her." Hope blinked, her mouth slightly open, as if unsure whether to smile or cry. "I want you to know," he continued, "I didn't just come here to marry her. I came to promise something to you." Gasps rippled across the garden. "I promise," he said, his voice steady, "to never let you feel alone again, to stand beside you when you're scared, to cheer for you when you're brave, and to be the father you've always deserved." Hope threw her arms around his neck, and for a long, beautiful moment, neither moved. When Alexander rose, he turned to Amelia. Her eyes shimmered, lips parted in disbelief. "I don't have vows polished by speechwriters," he said softly. "Only this, I wouldn't be here if not for you. I wouldn't have lived, learned, or loved. You saved me before I knew your name, and somehow, you've been saving me ever since." Amelia reached for his hand. "I didn't think I'd ever stop running," she whispered. "But I don't want to run anymore. Not from this. Not from you." There was no thunderous applause, No glittering drone shots. Just quiet weeping, clutched hands, and the sound of birds overhead. And then a whisper. Hope leaned toward Amelia and said, "You have him now, Mummy." Amelia smiled through her tears. "No, sweetheart," she said, wrapping one arm around her daughter and the other around Alexander. "We have each other." As they walked back down the aisle, three hearts entwined, past the rows of once skeptical witnesses turned silent believers. The moment felt like more than an ending. It felt like a promise kept. And just as they stepped beyond the last row of seats, a voice from the crowd, soft but sure, echoed the words that had started it all. "She's all I've got now. Only now. She had both of them. Forever." If you enjoyed this story, ensure to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing, heartfelt stories like this. Also, let us know where you're watching from, and drop your thoughts in the comments. What did you think of Amelia's quiet strength? Did little Hope steal your heart like she did ours? And what about Alexander, the cold CEO who found his warmth in the love of a child and the woman who once saved his life? We'd love to hear your favorite moment. Was it the lobby plea, the hospital vow, or the garden promise? Your support keeps these stories alive.